Hey guys, it's Mallory, and I am back with the second part of my risk tutorial. This one, I'm going to talk about a few different risk terms you may hear me or other players using so that you can start to better follow along if you're watching my videos or some of these other really great risk players. If you are on my YouTube channel, I actually do have a section called My Favorite Risk YouTubers. The reason I started this channel was I started to become very addicted to this game a couple months ago, was playing computers a lot, kind of got bored with that and wanted to start playing real people. And in my first few online games, I was just getting absolutely roasted. Like, I was getting killed immediately. And so I actually found myself going to YouTube and trying to find some videos to better understand what was happening to me. Why was I was so good at beating the computers? Why am I not beating these real online players? And so I started with Mr. Slin's channel. He focuses on the classic fixed card auto match games just like I do. And his videos were so super helpful to me to understanding the psychology of this game, how to not just be the first person out of every game. And then from Mr. Slin's channel, I discovered the Kill Pete strategy. He is probably the most popular, successful risk YouTuber. He also does a lot of streaming. He focuses more on progressive card games, but he does all different play styles. He's in tournaments, and he's also a really nice guy. If you comment on his videos on YouTube, you can ask him questions. He responds to almost every single comment. He was he's really nice, very supportive of the risk community. Pete got me turned on to Risky Phil. Risky Phil, I think I mentioned him in another video. He just has a very calming presence. I like to watch his videos before bed because he has a really calming presence, a really calming play style. He also does a lot of different kinds of games. Right now, he's doing a series where he goes from novice to grandmaster playing the capitals version of Risk, which is just a different kind of Risk game where you have a capital that you're protecting. I don't know a lot about the caps games, and so I've been really enjoying that series just to learn more about caps because it's a very different strategy when you're doing capitals over world domination. And I even then I think it was maybe one of Risky Phil's videos that I got turned on to this other channel that I just started watching, Cosmic Cowboy. He's doing a novice to grandmaster on I think Classic Fix. So that's been a really fun series to watch because Classic Fixed is just my favorite style. So again, if you're watching my videos or watching some of these other really great players' videos, you may start to hear some terms that you're not really understanding what they're talking about. And so I set up a pass and play that it's just going to be me playing, but I set this up so that I could start to explain what some of these terms mean so that you can better follow along to these games. So, in my last beginner's guide, you heard me talk about things like the big trade. You heard me talking about split or splitting. You also heard me talking about what it means to take a card. So, we are going to talk about a few more terms. The first one I want to talk about is turtle. So you will hear people talk about turtling. The Australia turtle is kind of like a risk meme. What turtling means is that you are just kind of in your little area and you're not doing much. And so somebody who is turtling isn't making any big moves on the board. They're not going after people. They're not breaking continents. They are just kind of maybe taking a card and passing. That's what it means to turtle. Is you're kind of you can think of it as like I am I am hiding in my shell, just like a turtle might, right? Like I'm hiding in my shell and I'm not coming out. And I'm just going to stay in my shell, stay in my little area of Australia, and I'm not going to bother anyone. I'm not going to poke the bear. That's what turtling means. And you're going to hear people say that a lot. You also may hear people talk about having a good roll or a bad roll. When they're talking about good roll and bad roll, they are talking about literally rolling the dice. So if you have all of your computer animations turned off, it may not be readily apparent that this is a board game involving dice rolls. So a good roll, bad roll is talking about the outcome of that roll and whether it was a good outcome or a bad outcome. Now, obviously, if you're talking about rolling dice, that is odds, right? Dice is random. Uh, so a good roll, for example, might be if I am this dark blue player, a good roll might be something like, and let me just deploy for this guy. A good roll might be something like me taking this 3, rolling it against this 4. Now, anyone will tell you that rolling a 3 troop against a 4 troop, not recommended. The odds are not in your favor. But theoretically, you could get a good roll and this 3 could take out this 4. That is possible. So let's see what happens. Let's see. If you're doing balance splits, it will tell you what your odds of winning are. Let's see what this says. This feature displays your estimated chance of victory. As an attacker, you can use this information to make better strategic decisions. For battles in excess of 100 total troops, the accuracy of this estimation may suffer. So I'm not even going to get into the numbers of what these rolls are. I do think Mr. Slynn has a video that goes into really good detail about how the rolls work and what the math is behind it. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that math is not my strong point. So I am not even going to attempt to do that. But let's see what happens when this 3 tries to attack this 4 and if we get a good roll or not. So again, my chance of winning is 0. Let's see what happens. Okay, so my 3, you can see, is now a 1, and this 4 is still a 4. So that is what we call a bad roll. I lost everything, he lost nothing. Now, a good roll may have been, maybe I still don't win it. Maybe I still lose everything, but now this 4 is a 2. That would have maybe been a good roll because now I was able to take this 4 and knock it down to a 2, and that would have been a good roll. You know, my odds of winning were impossible, but maybe I could have knocked him down a few troops. That would have been a good roll. Um, Another term that I will talk about is spending out. You may hear someone say, oh, this guy's just spending out now, or he's spent out. What that means is taking some of your smaller troops and trying to hit impossible numbers. All you're doing is kind of spending your own troops and you're getting nothing out of it. So that is what people mean when they're saying, oh, he's just spending out now. If I take this 2 and try and hit this 3, again, that's still a 3, and now I'm a 1. If I do it again, that's still a 3, and so I'm spending my troops, and I'm not getting anything out of it. That's kind of what people mean when they say that somebody is spending out. And stick with me, guys, because I actually have these all written down on a piece of paper because I didn't want to forget all of the terms I wanted to try to hit. Another term you might hear is a stack or a big stack. What people are talking about when they're referring to stacks is larger troop counts. So you'll see like this dark blue player has a big stack of 21. That's what people are referring to when they're talking about a stack, is just like a giant number of troops in one place. You may also hear someone talking about cleaning up the board. What they mean by cleaning up the board is if you look over here in Asia or if you look over here in North America, you see that players have, kind of big numbers, especially for the early game, right? Like threes and fours are kind of big numbers. So if I am a player and I'm like, man, I really want North America, like that's where I want to be, and I want to try and own this continent, I first need to think about cleaning up this board a little bit. Cleaning up the board means trying to knock out other people or get people to fortify out, so that you can start to come in, because you much rather would take these ones than have to start hitting these threes and these fours. You may also hear it in reference to if there is a bot or a computer in the game, cleaning up the bot, right? Trying to slowly tick away at that bot to get it cleaned up, get its numbers reduced so that you or another player can take the bot out of the game. So you may hear someone talking about cleaning things up in reference to like cleaning up another player, cleaning up the bot, and it generally just means trying to get a continent or get a stronghold on an area by taking out other players in smaller numbers or having people fortify. For example, you could hope maybe that this blue player, if yellow fortifies this 2 over into the 3, the light blue player could take their 4 up, um, and fortify in, and now North America is getting cleaned up, right? You may also hear, oh, and it's still blue's turn, so let's end attack. I noticed that is one of the computer animations that we can turn off, is when it comes by and it's like fortify, attack, like across the screen. That is one of the computer options that I will show you how to turn off at the end of this. Blue doesn't really have anywhere to fortify to. I'm just going to keep him with a big stack of 21, and I'm going to end his turn. Oh, that was cute. I don't think that must also be one of the animations I turned on, because I don't remember hearing that little noise before. So, again, I turned on everything for these tutorials. So we'll show you how to turn those off, because a lot of this stuff can really slow you down. So, now it's yellow player's turn, and is going to Yellow player is going to do something that I call zero carding or card skipping. Um, they Oh, and blue also kind of card skipped, but by accident, right? He was trying to get a card, but he did not. So yellow player is going to purposefully card skip. And what card skip means is you are not taking a territory. If you watch my first video, you know that anytime that you take at least one territory in your turn, you get a card. It should be your goal to get a card each time, because those cards equal troops. However, it can be strategically advantageous to sometimes not take a card. Um, Yellow is not really in a position right now where it's strategically advantageous, but we're going to say that yellow is kind of like an inexperienced player here. And he's like, you know what? I've got my Australia. I'm happy with my Australia. I'm just going to put everything in Australia. I'm going to turtle in Australia. I'm going to go to my attack phase, and I'm not going to attack anyone. That's what yellow is saying right now. I'm just not going to attack anybody. So he's just going to go right into his fortify. He's going to fortify this 2 over. Mallory Lynn. So he card skipped, or he zero carded. If you card skip like multiple turns in a row, you're putting yourself in a really tough position. However, there are times when that makes sense. I actually have a few games where I was in a really bad kind of board position. I was really struggling, and having cards in your hand means that people may start to think about taking you out. So card skipping can be an effective tool to make yourself less of a target for another opponent to take you out, to kill you, because when you get killed by somebody in the game, they get all of your cards. So if you have no cards, Now it's really not strategically advantageous for them uh, to kill you. So that's when it can be helpful. Another thing I want to talk about is active and passive guard. So, whenever you own a continent, there are a few different strategies for kind of locking down that continent and keeping people from breaking you. So, when you hear somebody say, "Oh, they broke me," or "I'm going to break them," what they're talking about is breaking the continent bonus that they are receiving for holding it down. So you'll see that a few different players are guarding their continents in different ways. Pink player is doing an active guard, meaning that every entry point into Africa, Africa can be entered from East Africa, Egypt, and North Africa. So South America can come into Africa this direction. Europe can come into Africa either through Western Europe. Southern Europe touches both Northern Africa and Egypt. Middle East touches Egypt and East Africa. So these three territories are the ones that actively touch other areas. Congo, South Africa, and Madagascar are completely protected within the continent with no way into these if it's not through these three. So pink player is doing what we would call an active guard. They have troops on every single entrance point into their continent. So they've got this 10 here, a 5, and a 4 in a way to tell the players around them, the players they're playing with, hey, if you want to break me, break my continent, take my bonus away from me, you are going to have to hit a 10, a 5, or a 4, which can be costly, right? So that's an active guard. Australia is also doing an active guard. If you want to break Australia, you have to come in and hit yellow's 19. That's the only way in. You will see that the two blue players are doing more of what we call a passive guard. Most of Europe's troops are here in the center as a 13. They have ones on all parts of their outside. So there are ways in to this continent where they are not guarding these borders. Also, dark blue is not guarding this border here in Venezuela. They have their entire big stack sitting in Brazil. Peru is also a common place to do a passive guard when you have South America. If this 21 were here in Peru, you could come in through Central America or through North Africa. However, once you've done that, you are doing something called opening the person up. What it means to open the person up is, and we actually, I'll come back to opening up because I think this 19 is a perfect example of it. But suffice to say, passive guard is a really good strategy, especially if you're playing against real people. If you are playing against computers, you almost have no choice but to do an active guard because the computers will break you. Real people, though, understand that by breaking someone, they are making that person very, very mad. So you really have to think about before you break somebody's territory bonus, continent bonus. You really want to make sure, like, you are starting a war. Are you sure you want to do that? So I am going to have the pink player here. I'm going to put everything here, and they are going to go in. They're going to break the Europe bonus. So now this light blue player, when it's their turn next, they are no longer going to be getting the +5 for holding Europe because I just broke them. Pink player is also feeling very saucy today, and they are going to come over here and they are going to take some of the Australia Turtles territory. So what this pink player has just done is they opened up this yellow player. And what that means is these two, India and China, had been yellow before I just hit them. You cannot attack through your own territory, right? In that first video, we talked about the fact that you can only attack what your troops are physically touching. So this 19 down here wasn't physically touching one of their opponent's territories. They were surrounded by their own territory. And that means that that 19 on the next turn was useless. It wasn't going to be able to do anything. Yellow player, if they wanted to attack, would have only been able to attack out from these 4s over here. But pink player just opened them up. And that means that now that 19 is able to come out and attack and do something. You need to be very, very aware when you are opening up another player, because keeping their big stack locked behind their own territory is sometimes a strategic advantage to you, because now that 19 can't do anything. That's what it means to open someone up. That's especially incredibly, incredibly important during the end game. Keeping somebody's troops locked behind their own territories is extremely important in that end game, because it's all about taking as many territories as possible, breaking your opponent's continent bonuses, and leaving them in a position where they can't do the same to you. And so if you leave some of their big stacks locked, when it comes to their turn, if they're only getting 3 or 4 troops that turn, now all that territory that you just took, they can't take it back because their stack is locked. So that's what it means to open someone up. We also talked a little bit about slow rolling. And so what that means, and when that can be strategically advantageous. So it's light blue's turn. Light blue got broken this last time. Light blue is pretty mad at pink. So we're going to have light blue slow roll pink. So light blue is going to attack. They're going to take back Europe. They're going to come down here. And light blue is thinking, you know, I don't just want to hit this 10, right? 15 against 10, while they have a very good chance of winning that, they also have a very good chance of getting a bad roll and maybe losing troops themselves. So if this 15 hits this 10, you know, the 10 may be gone, but this 15 may only be like a 3 or a 4 at the end of that. That's a lot of troops to lose. So he's going to come down and slow roll pink, and he's going to kind of tell pink, I am very mad that you just broke my continent. I'm going to hit you a couple of times to show my displeasure and to kind of make this 10 smaller. So let's see what happens when he slow rolls. Let's do a slow roll 2 times to see what happens. So he's got 14 troops. I know it says 15 here, but again, remember, 1 troop always has to be left behind. So he's working with 14, pink is working with 10, and we're going to do 2 slow rolls. And what a slow roll means is you are moving these arrows away from the balance blitz option, which is all 14 of these are going to hit all 10 of these in one motion, right? Slow roll is rolling individual dice just like the real board game. So we're going to do 2 slow rolls to see what happens. Oh, he won the first one. So now you'll see he still has 14, but now pink only has 8. He won both of those. So pink lost 2 troops from that slow roll. And then he slow rolls again, and that was a split. He won 1 and pink won 1. So he lost 1 troop and pink lost 1 troop. So now we're going to move it back to blitz. That's really important. If you ever do any kind of slow rolling, you have to remember to put this back to blitz. It's very annoying. I forget every single time, basically. So he just slow rolled pink. That's what a slow roll is. We talked about active and passive guard. And so now blue is in his fortify phase, and blue is going to come back up, and he's going to start to passive guard Europe again. Passive guard. So now it's dark blue's turn, and something that you'll also hear people talking about is the concept of quote unquote trading cards. You'll often hear somebody say, yeah, I'm just going to trade cards with this person for a while. What that means is you are um, you are taking, again, you're taking a territory not because it's a strategic advantage, but because you want to get a card. Cards equal troops. And unless you are doing card skipping, getting at least one territory during your turn is really important so that you can get a card. So blue is, kind of in a little bit of a battle with pink here. Pink kind of has him surrounded. Blue doesn't want to start anything with pink. And so instead, blue is going to put his troops up here in North America, and he is going to attack this yellow one, not because it's a strategic advantage to him, but because he wants a card. And then during his fortify phase, he's going to move that back because he does not want to be threatening to this light blue player. He doesn't want light blue to think that he's coming in and he's going to break Europe. So he's going to fortify this 4 back down out of the way to show this Europe player, hey, nothing personal, I'm not coming for you. And then yellow, who you'll remember just got opened up by pink last turn. Opening up means this 19 is now free to move about the board. Before, when these two were yellow, this 19 was kind of stuck here, and it's not coming out unless and until he moves it during the fortify phase. So now this 19's opened up, but we're just gonna keep Australia turtling, uh, and instead, yellow is going to start to trade cards with blue. So yellow is going to take this 4, hit this 1, not because it's a strategic advantage at all, but because yellow wants a card. And so now he is trading cards with blue. Blue and yellow are up here in North America, and maybe they're allies, right? Maybe they have an alliance and they have an agreement with each other that they're friends, they're hanging out in North America together, and they're just going to keep taking each other's territories that are a 1 just as a means of getting a card. So that's what it means to trade cards with somebody. Another term you might hear is being thinned out. What that essentially means is that you don't have any big stacks. And so pink, I think, is kind of in a thin position here where in their continent, they only have this 7 and this 4. They were broken last time. They've got a 3 over here. That will be very easy to take if somebody cares to. They do have an 8 over here, but that's what it means to kind of be thinned out, is when you're just kind of all over the board and you don't have any like real big, like blue is in a great position because he's got this 21, yellow's got this 24. Even light blue has this 14, and if they start to fortify, that can start to even be a pretty big army, where pink here is very thin, right? Very thin. That's what it means to be thinned out. Another thing that you will hear a lot is the term botting out. What that means is when you're playing online, if somebody loses connection or quits the game, a bot takes over their character. So botting out means, let's say that light blue here needs to get to work and this game is just taking forever. They might quit the game, close the game, and now this light blue, who used to be a real human being, is a computer. That's what it means to bot out. Something you need to be very, very aware of when you're playing online is people who bot out can actually come back to the game. I think we actually saw in a video recently that I lost connection for a second. Thankfully, the game reconnected me and got me back in. But if it hadn't, it is a possibility that I could have maybe closed the app, opened the app back up, and a little box will come up to say, like, do you want to join your last game? So there are people who will actually use botting out as a strategy. It is my personal pet peeve when people do this. I think that it's essentially akin to cheating. Obviously, if you've lost connection and it was an accident, that's understandable. But there are people who will purposely bot out, knowing that in an online game, people often ignore the bots, right? They go after the other humans because they want to win and they can beat a bot. And so there are people who will bot out for like 5, 6 turns, let the other human players kind of fight each other, and then come back to the game and win it. Very rude when that happens. I do not like it. But that's what it means when people bot out. And again, something if you're playing online, you need to be very, very aware of. You'll also see sometimes in online games that there is just a bot in the game. What that means is either somebody did not do the ready up, pressing the ready button to say, yes, I'm ready to start this game. That will cause a bot to be in the game from the beginning. Or if you're setting up a game online, you can even have bots in the game right from the get-go. You can have human players and bots. So if somebody was a bot the whole time, they will have that little uh, robot icon right underneath their picture. However, if they bot out, if it started as a human, you often cannot tell that they are a bot, and you need to click on their picture to check, and it will say, I am offline right now. So that's something you have to really, really keep your eyes on, especially as a new player. When you get more experienced, you recognize the bots almost immediately. I can tell something is a bot based on how they're deploying their troops, how they're attacking. When a bot attacks, the little arrows don't exist. So if if pink here goes to attack, you will see the little white arrows. Bots don't have those. So when you get more experience, you can start to recognize the bots right away. And then the last, oh, I have two more terms. I'm going to, second to last is stalemate. You hear me talk about stalemates all the time. A stalemate game is a game in which pretty much everyone has a continent and everyone is just kind of sitting in their continent, taking a card and passing. A stalemate is a situation in which everybody is kind of waiting for the other person to do something. Those games can end up going for hours. Again, if you're a very, very patient player, that is a great way to win is you just kind of have to wait other people out. So when you hear me say, "Oh, this game is starting to feel very stalematey," what I mean by that is, Australia's sitting down here, they're turtling. They're just taking a card, going to the next turn. Europe taking a card, going to the next turn. South America, taking a card, going to the next turn. And round that goes, sometimes 20, 30 turns in a row where nobody is actively kind of attacking the other opponents. They're just taking a card and then passing to the next person as a means to kind of build their armies up, get very big, and when that's happening, every single player is hoping that another player will just do something. Because if, say, pink and blue get into a war, that's very good for light blue and yellow, right? If these two are fighting and these two are staying out of it, these two are just getting bigger while these two are just getting smaller. So that's what happens in a stalemate is you have a bunch of people just kind of hoping that someone else starts something and it's not with you. I hate stalemates. I don't have the patience for it. And that's why you will often see me in these videos being the one to start something. I would rather lose the game than sit there for an hour just trading cards with people. I've been in games like that before. It is not fun. In fact, a couple weeks ago, and I did not get this one on video, and I wish I had. A couple weeks ago, I was in a game where I had Australia and I had everything, my entire big stack in Siam here. I also had Asia. Um, Another player had Europe and Africa, and the other player had the Americas. And you guys, We sat there for probably 20 turns in a row, not even getting a card. Every single person was just um, deploying troops, skipping the attack phase altogether, going right to fortify, and passing because nobody wanted to be the one that broke someone. So every single continent was taken. We had these very firm borders. That game was hilarious to me, even though I hate stalemates, the board being, organized in such a fashion where like I had these two, this guy had these two, that guy had these two. I was kind of like mesmerized by like, oh my God, who's going to be the first one to do something? I don't even remember what the outcome was, but I remember calling my husband in and being like, you got to come see this. So the very last term I want to talk about is one that you are going to hear a lot. I don't personally like what it's called, and it is suicide. You will hear someone say, "This person suicided on me," or these players are just suiciding. I don't like that because for one, think that it's kind of a misnomer, and here's why: what it means to suicide on someone. So, as we know, pink broke Europe, and so Europe came and broke pink. Um, we're gonna say that pink is just really getting mad, and they want to kind of quit the game. So pink is gonna attack and spend out this 7. Um, they're gonna attack and spend out this 3. Oh, that was actually a good roll. 2 against 1 and pink got it. That's a good roll. That's a good roll. And then this is what a suicide is. Suicide is when you take your big stack and you throw it head first into another player, often when you know you cannot win. And so this 11 is going to hit this 21. It has a 0% chance of working. And look what just happened. Pink just got a great roll. That was a great roll. This was a much, much bigger number, right? This was a 21. This was an 11. Obviously, there's nothing left of this 11, but look at what happened to blue's 21. It's a 5 now. And so because pink suicided into blue, blue has 13 troops left on the board. This is why players complain about it so much, is because often you will have a player suicide into you and it destroys your game. So that's why I think that this is kind of a misnomer. Suicide seems like I'm only hurting myself, but what's actually happening is you are incapacitating another player. You will often have this happen in the end game when somebody can't possibly win. They're in a completely losing situation. They will kind of decide who gets to win by suiciding into one of the other players. So let's say like third place suicides into first place, guaranteeing that the person who was just in second is now going to win the game. Um, Suiciding also happens when you've really, really started to make another player mad. You will often hear people complain online that people are suiciding on them for no reason. I think that 80% of the time, though, there's a reason that you're maybe just not aware of. You broke their continent, you've been antagonizing them the whole game, you took out a 4 or a 5 stack from them in the early game and they never got over it. There's almost always a reason that a player decides to do that and decides to do it against a specific person. So something to be aware of. I think it should probably be called like a kamikaze, right? Because it's not just hurting you. It's like I'm hurting myself and I'm taking out another player with me. It's like a murder suicide, right? So I also just don't love the term suicide. I think it's good for like mental health awareness to not use that term like too loosely, but it is what it is, right? Like when people are talking about suiciding in a risk perspective, this is what they're referring to. They are obviously not referring to a person doing suicide in real life. It is just a game term. So again, I hope this was helpful to you guys. Some of these risk terms, if you're just new to the game and you're new to watching some of these videos or watching some of these great players stream, you will hear some of these terms being thrown around. And I just wanted people to understand what these terms mean a little bit more so that they can feel like they understand what's going on in the game. Again, I am going to just kind of quit this game. Surrender now and lose this game. Yes, let's quit. That was just a pass and play that I set up for the purposes of this video. I was not online. I was not playing anybody else. But again, let's go to our settings because our settings are so, so important. AI advisor. I don't think that we've seen this yet. I had this turned on when I was new to the game. I have it turned off now. But what the AI advisor is a little bubble that is on the bottom of the game. It's like a little, it looks like a person of a picture's, like a picture of a person's head. And it will give you advice on where to deploy your troops, where to attack, and where to fortify. Again, I found this to be really, really helpful when I was brand new to the game. It gives you just little help advice of, hey, you should probably better fortify your continent so nobody breaks you, or you should attack this person in this specific territory, and here's why. It can help you start to think strategically if you are brand new to the game. Once you have some experience under your belt, though, this is just no longer going to be helpful to you. The advice is actually borderline bad once you understand the game a little bit better. But if you're new to the game, the AI advisor can be very very helpful. Turn info notification. Enable information about each of the turns. I am not sure what that is. The phase change animation, I know now, it's when attack, fortify kind of flies across the screen. We don't need that. That's just going to slow us down. End phase confirmation, again, I recommend turning this off only if you are very, very, very confident in yourself. I had it turned off for a while, and oh my God, did I live to regret that. I really do like having that. Are you sure you want to move to fortify? Are you sure you want to move to attack? Because I do misclick sometimes. So that can actually be helpful if you are prone to misclicks. But if you are very, very confident in yourself, go ahead and turn it off. But I am not that confident. Territory names, that's when you can scroll in and actually see what the names of the territories are. Find local games, that's like if you have some friends over and you're going to do a play with friends. If you're all on the same Wi-Fi, you don't have to use the code. It will just find that game. Turn info notification. I bet turn info notification was when it was popping up with the little player picture with that noise. Remember, I was like, oh, what was that? I bet you anything that's what that is. So I'm going to turn that off. And these are the settings I normally play with end phase confirmation on, territory names on. So again, hope this was helpful for you guys. And we will see you next time.